What's going on, guys? Welcome back to the channel. In today's video, I'll be doing another special video. I'll be doing my top 10 list of the best movies of 2024. Before I dive into my list, I want to explain how this video is going to go. So this list is based off of my personal and critical opinion, so this list may be different than yours. Plus, when I talk about these movies, it's not going to be me reviewing every single movie that I'm going to be talking about. It's just going to be me briefly explaining why I enjoy the film and giving you an explanation to why it's on my list. Lastly, some of the movies that are on my display area, excluding the classics, are on this list. So if you want to play a game while you watch this video, try to figure out where I'm going to put these movies that are on my display area as you watch this video. Other than that, here's my list for the best movies of 2024. Number 10, Horizon: An American Saga, Chapter 1. I've been waiting for Hollywood to make a good Western for a very long time. With Kevin Costner coming to the plate and making Horizon Chapter 1, I thought this movie was an absolute masterclass. With Kevin Costner being one of my favorite actors and the Western genre being one of my favorite genres in movies, I had high hopes that Kevin Costner was not only going to craft a great Western film, but it was just going to be a great movie. After watching it, this is an excellent Western that has a lot of great action sequences, good characters, and ultimately Kevin Costner is the guy that you want to make your Western film. It was a very big breath of fresh air. However, the only negative I have with this film, it's way too long, and for some people, this is the reason why Yellowstone ended very poorly. I've never seen Yellowstone, but I enjoyed this film, and it definitely deserves a righteous spot on my list. Number 9, Monkey Man. One of the bigger surprises of the year would be Monkey Man. For me, when I originally saw this trailer and the title for this film, I thought this movie had absolutely no chance, and I was not gonna like it at all. But after watching it, this movie is actually pretty spectacular, and it definitely deserves a spot on my list because it provides a unique experience that I really have never seen before. The action sequences are magnificent, and the story is unique enough for me to really appreciate what it did for me when I watch it. Ultimately, Monkey Man provides a very intense revenge tale that has really amazing acting, cool characters, and just a very unique vibe to it that I really enjoyed heavily, and it definitely deserves to be number 9 on my list. Number 8, The Wild Robot. Every time DreamWorks makes an animated film dedicated to children, they always do an excellent job. With The Wild Robot, this is another great addition to that catalog because it's absolutely magnificent. When I watched the trailer for this film, I knew that it was probably going to be very good because I've been a fan of DreamWorks ever since I was a kid, and watching this one, it blew me away because it was absolutely brilliant. This film provides a very unique story that you have seen before, but the way that the filmmakers craft this story is just so heartwarming and just so interesting that I found it to be unique and very fun. The voice work is also very well done, and the biggest thing for me is the illustration and the animation for this film is magnificent and is half the reason why this film is on my list. The Wild Robot is a great film for the entire family to enjoy, and it definitely deserves the 8th spot on my list. Number 7, The Bike Riders. Anytime Austin Butler and Tom Hardy are in a movie, I'm always for it. With The Bike Riders, those two join forces together and they make a very interesting bike rider / gang affiliated film. Ultimately, The Bike Riders is a film that I found to be riveting. It provided a unique story that I wasn't expecting, and it just gave you a very authentic experience that I haven't seen in a long time. Austin Butler steals the show as one of the members of this gang. He does a great job in trying to portray as this big bad biker guy, and Tom Hardy does the same as he is the leader. Ultimately, this film is a very riveting, action-packed thrill ride that I just loved heavily, and it definitely deserves the 7th spot on my list. Number 6, Saturday Night. One of the biggest surprises for me on this list will be Saturday Night at number 6. Before I saw this film, I was not a big fan of the show Saturday Night Live, so I really had no expectations for this movie. After watching it, this is a great insight of how the show was crafted and just giving you a pure adrenaline rush of how chaotic this show can be. For me, while watching it, the way this film is crafted through the cinematography, the way that the shots are structured, and the acting across the board is magnificent, and it blew me away. After I watched this film, I was interested in watching some episodes of Saturday Night Live, and I did some research on the comedics that are featured in this film. So overall, it provided a great story and a great movie, and it made me want to dig deeper more into the lore of Saturday Night Live. So for that, it definitely deserves to be number 6 on my list. Number 5, Deadpool and Wolverine. Ryan Reynolds and Hugh Jackman are two of my favorite Hollywood actors, so when they were going to team up for Deadpool and Wolverine, I was totally on board. I'm a huge fan of the Fox X-Men universe, and I'm also a big fan of the first 2 Deadpool films. So when they were going to smash everything together, I was definitely on board. When this film came around, Marvel had a lot riding on it, and I think the expectations for this movie were high, and after seeing it, my expectations were blown out of the water because this is definitely one of the best movies I've seen all year. Deadpool and Wolverine provides an experience that gives you the merc with the mouth and the amazing Wolverine character back at it, and it just gives you a very funny and violent and fun film to enjoy. Lastly, I think Ryan Reynolds does a great job at playing Deadpool for the 3rd time, and realistically, there's not a lot of movies that I dislike that have Ryan Reynolds in them. But for me, what stole the show will be Hugh Jackman coming back as the character of Wolverine. Before I saw this movie, I was skeptical of how his return was going to be because I'm a huge fan of the Fox X-Men universe, and I truly enjoyed his send-off in the movie Logan. With Hugh Jackman coming back as a character of Wolverine in the film Deadpool and Wolverine, he steals the show because he provides the best performance in the entire movie, and he is one of the most interesting characters, and he has a ton of absolute fantastic action sequences that made me geek out as a Wolverine and X-Men nerd. Number 4, Transformers 1. It gives me so much joy to put Transformers 1 at number 4 on my list because I'm a huge Transformers fan. Going into this film, I thought this was going to be an absolute disaster because the animation looked absolutely horrible and the previous Transformers films have been not the best. After watching Transformers 1, this movie blew me away because it provided a Transformers experience that I've been begging for a very long time. This film provides the origin story of Optimus Prime and Megatron that if you're a Transformers fan and you know the source material, this movie follows that to the T. Outside of that, it gives you fan service that I was not expecting at all. The ending of this movie is so amazingly awesome that it blew my shoes off while I was watching it because I have been waiting for a movie to capture the awesomeness that the Transformers world can provide, and in Transformers 1 it absolutely does that. The ending of this movie is pure fan service and I loved every single second of it, and it truly gives me such a big breath of fresh air because if you remember in my top 10 worst of 2023, Transformers 7, it was number 2 on my list, and in this year the Transformers film is on my best list at number 4, so thank you for not ruining the Transformers for once. Number 3, Heretic. When it comes to horror, the studio A24 knows exactly what it's doing. With the film Heretic, this movie provides an eerie, interesting, and horrifying experience all at once. With the film that is centered around a weird guy who basically traps 2 girls in his house and forces them to figure out this maze that he has in his house, provided me an experience that I was not expecting, and it threw me for a loop. This film stars Hugh Grant as the weird guy, and this performance is by far one of the best performances I saw all year in 2024. And for me personally, the way that he crafts this character is not only super interesting, but it's so weird and horrifying at the same time. It just gave me everything that I wanted. Ultimately, the filmmakers in this movie give you a story that is so interesting and so fun while you're experiencing it, but it's also terrifying at the same time. The shots in this film are so eerie and dark that are just so brilliantly crafted, and you got performances, including Hugh Grant, that are magnificent the entire time. Heretic was one of the best films I saw all year, and it blew me out of the water. Number 2, Smile 2. If you told me at the beginning of the year in 2024 that Smile 2 was going to be at my number 2 spot on my top 10 best list of the year, I would have looked at you like you had 8 different eyes. After watching Smile 2, this movie not only is the most shocking film I've seen all year, it's by far the best horror film I've seen in a very long time. For somebody that wasn't a big fan of the first film, I thought it was okay. I really had no expectations for Smile 2. But after watching it, this is one of the most unique horror films I have ever seen. In this horror film, it provides you with a story that is actually enjoyable to follow. You have a character with this singer that is presented in Smile 2 that you actually care about but hate at the same time. I also really enjoyed the horror elements that are in Smile 2. There are some jump scares that are featured in this movie, but they're actually good jump scares, and some of them actually did get me. These jump scares aren't disposable like you would see in a typical crappy horror film, and the evil smiling entity is way scarier in this one than it was in the original. For me, the biggest thing that stood out for me in this movie will be the climax. I could not believe how amazing the ending is, because this is by far the best ending I've seen all year in 2024. The way this movie is completed and not only provides a very thrilling, intense, and horrifying conclusion, it blew me out of the water. And when the first credit appeared on the screen, I could not believe what I just witnessed, and I knew instantaneously that this movie was one of the best movies I've seen all year. Number 1, Dune Part 2. When I originally watched Dune Part 2 in March of 2024, I knew I had the rest of the year for a bunch of movies that I knew I was going to watch, but I had a feeling that Dune Part 2 was going to remain superior at the best movie of the year. And as the year concluded, I do not think that there's another movie that is better than Dune Part 2. For somebody that is a big fan of Denis Villeneuve, I thought he was going to come back with the sequel of Dune and do an excellent job. And that's exactly what he does, because in Dune Part 2, it's definitely one of the best experiences I've seen all year. Definitely in the theater, I cannot remember a better experience that I saw all year in 2024 in the theater. And this is just a great film that has a lot of things going for it. It has amazing action, it has brilliant cinematography, brilliant music, and the acting across the board is phenomenal. If you're a fan of the Dune movies, the Dune book, this movie does a good job at portraying what it should be for the source material. And Denis Villeneuve is one of my favorite directors, and in this movie, he just does an excellent job in creating an epic of the Dune world. I was hoping that Denis Villeneuve was going to make it more epic and feel like a good cinematic conclusion. That's exactly what he did. Dune Part 2 is by far the best film I saw all year, and Denis Villeneuve is no joke when it comes to directing. There you have it. That's my list for the top 10 best movies of 2024. If you have a list, remember to leave that down below in the comments so that we can compare our lists. Lastly, I want to give a huge thank you to all my supporters of the year of 2024. If you know me personally, you know that I went through a lot of professional changes in my life that did not allow me a lot of time to create the normal full movie review that I was doing in 2023. Because of that, it made me resort in doing a lot of short movie reviews that you saw in the year of 2024, but that does not discredit the fact that you guys still showed up, you still hit the like button, you still hit the subscribe button, and you still showed showed me a lot of support throughout the year of 2024. So for that, I thank you very much. I love doing this. I love talking about movies. So any support is much appreciated. That's going to be it for me in this video. If you liked it, make sure you click that like button. If you're interested in seeing another video, I have a ton of videos on my channel. Make sure to check those out. And if you want to see more, make sure you subscribe. That way I can see you next time. Until that, be yourself, and I will see you next time. Peace.